Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather on this Monday, the 29th of July, 2019. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here, we've had pretty good rainfall amounts here on the eastern North Gulf Coast and northern Panhandle Coast there. 48-hour totals, 5 1/3 inches at Yakutat, and Dry Bay had 4 4/10 inches, while Lituya Bay had 2.48 inches. And the heaviest rain was right in those areas there, and maybe back to the northeast a little bit, but I definitely missed that one on there. I think I had like showers for Yakutat. Anyway, on to the fire danger map, and you can see the upper Yukon Valley here, the flats, really losing it. Just a small area there of probably just barely getting into the high category, and then that expands a little more extensive area of high fire dangers, but nothing like we saw for the last couple of months here onto the west, except pretty good out here along the north side of the Seward Peninsula, back toward Buckland and up into the Selawik Valley, and out toward Kotzebue, high to very high fire dangers there, and also into the Kobuk Valley, and that could extend partially into the Koyukuk, but nothing really too significant. And of course, the eastern interior seeing quite a bit of moisture, up to 2/3 of an inch of precipitation has fallen. 24-hour amounts up in the southern, or up toward the Yukon River there, but not quite into the Fort Yukon area. Fairbanks, 24-hour rainfall amount about 4/10 of an inch, so really good conditions fire danger-wise here, all the way down to the North Gulf Coast and, of course, the Panhandle. Moving on to satellite imagery, clouds have brought all the rain here to the area from Lituya Bay back toward Yakutat. That's kind of shifted off and dissipated now, with definitely much lighter precipitation occurring around the Yakutat area. We've got a system here off the approaching the southeast coast, and that's brought rain on into the central Panhandle today. Sitka has reported rain today, and Juneau also will get some rain later on, but just lighter amounts, but that'll increase here as this moves on eastward tonight, especially over the central and southern areas. Will be seeing the most precipitation with lesser amounts back to the north. Clearing skies, Kodiak Island, got some cirrus right here moving over from this pattern, due to this pattern, northwest flow aloft. That's pulling cirrus down across mostly the southern part of the island there. Dry, sunny day today, and temperatures in the lower 70s, 72, Kodiak State Airport at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And clearing out here for south central Alaska, some clouds, possibly a shower developing along the western Alaska range. And looks like some shower activity here over the eastern interior. Thunderstorms, not real extensive this afternoon, and either side of the border, but there were some strikes showing up, and probably be some more here toward the end of the afternoon into this evening. Got a system here coming out of the Russian Far East, not really moisture laden, but rain should start showing up, or actually it has at Tin City and along the northwest coast here, mostly Cape Lisburne to Point Hope, but a lot of overland trajectory there, so there's not a whole lot of moisture. The main low center itself coming along the north coast of the Russian Far East there, a little farther to the north, but generally that's going to continue to move in, and there will be some moisture with that later tonight and tomorrow. Otherwise, had some rain over the Pribilofs earlier today as this feature right here moved on by. Not a lot of rain, and then just kind of a lot of disorganized clouds out across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. But among those disorganized clouds, there is a weak frontal boundary out here, occluded front, with some light rain, fog, and drizzle from Shimia over to about Adak today. And here's the trough here, brought some light moisture to mostly Unumak Island. Not bad over the Alaska Peninsula, high pressure just to your south there. And again, the clearing skies, Kodiak Island. And that, you can see, extends all the way northward there, right to the western Arctic coast, seeing some, excuse me, clearing skies. This system off the Panhandle, we'll see tonight, slowly drops to the southeast, not very fast, and that's going to continue to spin some rain chances up to possibly as far north as Sitka, You're going to be right on the edge there, and then down across the southern areas into Dixon Entrance. Look for showers to end whatever's still happening there, and maybe some clearing over the northern panhandle. This area of moisture pushing eastward slowly, and that's going to keep showers. Again, could be some isolated thunderstorms this evening here over the eastern interior areas, with clearing back to the west as high pressure builds in and pushes into the interior, the ridging, with the center just southwest of Kodiak Island there. So look for decreasing clouds and dry conditions, light winds, risk of a shower there over the central Brooks Range, and low clouds and fog. They've got the low clouds there, probably add some fog in over the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and then this system will spread rain and pretty gusty winds, especially for Cape Lisburne. It's kind of a classic wind set up there, not really strong, but they had gusts to about 35 miles an hour today up in that area, or 30 miles an hour, while Shishmaref saw 25-mile-an-hour gusts. So it'll get a little breezy as this pushes in, but won't be exceptionally strong, and the rain won't be exceptionally heavy as well, but that'll spread eastward to the central Arctic coast by tomorrow morning, extend back down into the Bering Strait, possibly getting into the Nome area. Whatever it does, it'll be quite light. Otherwise, generally cloudy here along the southwest coast. This weak feature pushing rain eastward should be past Atka tomorrow. Some showers behind with another trough, and rain chances increase there for the western Alaska Peninsula. For tomorrow, that continues its eastward push here, so look for some periods of rain and fog to move into the, well, from Unalaska over to False Pass, King Cove, and Cold Bay during the day tomorrow, maybe as far east as Nelson Lagoon. Otherwise, clouds over the, along and off the coast of the southwest coast here, with sunshine, mostly sunny, and temperatures pretty nice over the southwest interior. Down to Kodiak Island, should be another mostly sunny day there again. Got some lower clouds though just to your east you got to watch for. Scattered showers in the afternoon, slight risk that could develop some of the taller clouds into a thunderstorm, but it'll be very isolated. Better chance here over the northeastern Copper River basins, Nabezna, North Waitok, on up toward maybe Eagle, but this whole area is still shifting eastward slowly throughout the afternoon, so most of that may be over in Canada. And this system continues to slide southward and keeps a chance of light rain, cloudy skies in across the Prince of Wales Island area over towards Stewart and Hyder, including Metlakatla and Ketchikan, with some partly sunny conditions, central, northern, southeast coast, maybe some showers up toward Skagway, and should be a dry day, maybe some sun for Yakutat, and more rain, as I mentioned, up in the northwest coast. And then for Wednesday, the cold front now pushes in across the north slope to the Brooks Range. Just a weak trailing edge, it's pretty washed out in this portion south of the Brooks Range, but could be some sprinkles, showers, cloudy skies, and then that really scatters out toward the Yukon Delta coast. Heaviest precipitation will be over the north slope and the Arctic coast, and winds turn westerly to northwesterly back behind this. Another surge of moisture poised to move into the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, western Arctic coast area. This system pushes rain into Bristol Bay, but again, it'll be light rain. Low center quite weak, just 1,007 millibars, not much gradient, so winds aren't a factor at all. Mostly sunny, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, as well as the Manauskas, the Sitna Valley, and the Kuskokwim Valley. And from about Fognak Island, look for increasing clouds there for Kodiak. And the eastern interior should be mostly sunny, just some isolated showers along the Alaska Range. Chance of thunderstorms here over the southeast coast, especially over toward the border, and then maybe down toward Klawock, Craig, or the southern areas if the moisture is available. And out to the west, a little bit stronger system showing up out here. Could bring some small craft advisory winds in toward the western Aleutian areas. Otherwise, high pressure in advance of that. Excuse me again. And for lows tonight, mid-50s over the eastern interior in Copper River, or I'm sorry, not the Copper River Basin. They'll be in the upper 40s. Yukon Flats in the mid-50s, lower 50s to upper 40s. You head southwest toward the coast. In the Bering Sea, upper 40s, as well as the Aleutians. Panhandle, upper 40s, lower 50s. Mid-50s for the Sitna Valley. Highs for tomorrow, 70s, 75 or 70-75 from the upper Yukon Valley. Fairbanks, Eagle, right on down into Nikolai and McGrath, possibly upper 60s near 70. Inland areas of Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, 70s. Susitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula, lows. 60s tomorrow will be upper 40s to 50s for the Panhandle. And that'll be followed by highs back into the mid-70s over the interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for tomorrow, we've got VFR here, actually from Fognak Island, across Cook Inlet northward and through the central interior right up into the North Slope. And then IFR along the Arctic coast, all the way down through the Bering Strait, in across the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range, the Long Mountains, in over most of the Seward Peninsula, and covering most of the Bering Sea and all of the Aleutians, right up the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay. IFR also here, Gulf of Alaska, northward to just the south end of Montague Island over toward Cordova, and marginal VFR Yakutat right up the east side here into the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country. Marginal VFR for the southeast coast for the afternoon, becoming VFR, central northern panhandle, staying marginal down south. IFR here, Cordova, Cape Yakataga, back over toward Montague Island, but south of the Kenai Peninsula, and mostly off the coast now of Kodiak, otherwise marginal VFR over the main island into Bristol Bay, and VFR here in the interior, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast, and then the IFR lingering on the west side there, on down around the Capes, Cape Lisburne, into Kivalina and possibly Noatak Valley. Kotzebue, Selawik, marginal, and looks like Nome right on the edge of the IFR there. Bering Sea IFR, Aleutians IFR. Following day on Wednesday, no change out here to the west, except maybe some marginal VFR showing up there around the Komodorskis to about Amchitka. Otherwise, IFR up the south side of the peninsula here, right across Kodiak Island, in across the Gulf of Alaska. Pretty solid IFR there here in the forecast, and in over the southeast coast, but VFR over the northern three-quarters of the Panhandle, VFR here in the interior, and up to the eastern Brooks Range, Arctic Village. For the afternoon, a band of IFR here from the central Arctic coast, down across the North Slope, central Brooks Range, extending back just north and northwest of the Yukon River Valley area, out across the Delta, IFR along the Kuskokwim Delta coast, IFR in the Aleutians, St. Lawrence Island, into the Bering Strait. IFR here now up to the south side of the Kenai Peninsula, Montague Island, southern Prince William Sound, eastward, right along or just off the Prince of Wales Island coast, and VFR over most of the Panhandle, staying a little marginal down south, and really not a lot of change, just some oscillation here of the IFR zones out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Passes tomorrow, Anatuvik and Adigan, both good VFR for the day, either entrance, Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR. Again, west and east entrances included, and rainy, VFR. Windy, same forecast, VFR, and Isabel, VFR also. Mentesta, VFR, risk of a thunderstorm though, and for Tanita, VFR, and Portage, marginal to start, and then becoming VFR throughout the morning hours and continuing through the afternoon. And that same trend here for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR becoming VFR. And for the freezing level, 8,000 feet here over the southeast coast into the Gulf and northward into the interior. Then you get down to about 7,000 feet over the Brooks Range, 6,000 feet right along the western Arctic coast, and then back up to 10,000 feet here, St. Lawrence Island, cutting across Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, 12,000, and then 14,000 here for Adak and Atka. And for the icing, best chance up here over the northwest areas with moisture coming in from the west. So it could be some moderate or considerable moderate rime icing here from the Seward Peninsula areas of all the way up along and off the western Arctic coast. And light icing here at worst, probably wouldn't be any moderate at all, just a slight chance around the Pribilofs and maybe a little bit better chance for the Alaska Peninsula and Unalaska Island. This area is here of mixed turbulence. That's going to be shifting, or mixed icing is going to be shifting eastward to about this position late tomorrow afternoon. And for the jet stream, southwest flow trough coming across the Bering, this for late tomorrow, but ridging, good high pressure coming into the interior tomorrow with 9,000 feet, 15 to 20 through the central interior up to 30 knots back to the northwest there, and 35 knot winds around that low in the Bering Sea, 25 around that feature at 3,000 feet, 25 knots southwesterlies on the, from Seward Peninsula up across the western Arctic coast. Pretty light elsewhere here, 5 to 10 knots, and turbulence-wise, occasional light to moderate chop here. Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait, Tin City, right up to Kivalina, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and Point Ley.
Space weather affects technologies. As conditions develop, we put out alerts, warnings, and watches to our customers so they can take action.
The Space Weather Prediction Center has had a long-standing relationship with the power industry, so they've been aware that solar storms, the geomagnetic storm piece of that, can affect the operation of their systems and induce extra currents and loads on those systems that can either trip those systems offline or in the worst of cases, cause damage. That relationship goes back for several decades. In fact, a big incident in 1989 where part of Quebec was tripped offline that affected something like 6 million customers for about 9 hours. I think that really raised the awareness in the power industries.
When we get the alert, we watch the grid and start looking for issues. Are we seeing a decline in voltage? Are we seeing equipment failures? And we readjust the system to try to mitigate those problems, try to keep the lights on and keep it from going out.
Averaging about 500, 550 kilometers per second.
If we didn't have this early warning, we wouldn't see it until our sensor saw it. Getting more information quicker and faster before the storm hits, not during the storm, is a big improvement.
In the long term, I think what we need and what we're moving toward, the U.S. as a whole, is better modeling, fully understanding this phenomenon, understanding how it would impact specific systems.
Rather than actually experiencing a storm, we can simulate storms in our software and see what the impact is. We try to get ahead of it. We always plan that if there's an outage, how can we keep the lights on? What's the best process to prevent it?
In the end, 5-10 years from now, there's going to be a whole mix of operational procedures driven by what we do on prediction and warning. And then there also will probably be some level of hardware controls to ensure the reliability of the grid.
Space weather affects technologies. As conditions develop, we put out alerts, warnings, and watches to our customers so they can take action.
There's different types of impacts on communication systems, and the HF we call the high frequency, which is that band of communications 3 to 30 megahertz. But it's a very important band of radio communication because it's used widespread. It's used, for example, by the airlines.
HF radio is most commonly used for position reporting when you're going across the ocean airspace, which is devoid of radar. And ATC can't see you, so it's up to you to report your position and your altitude and your speed.
HF works great most of the time, except during a big flare. And during a big flare, that HF communication capability could be gone within a minute or two. So as soon as we see something happening in there or we see a flare, it's one of the first things we do is alert the aviation community, hey, big flare, HF's going to be impacted.
Once we know that there's an event going on, then the aviation industry and the airlines can react to that. They can alter their routes over the poles. They can lower the altitudes that they're flying at, or maybe decide not to fly at all in the interest of the passenger safety.
So that's just one example of how HF is used, but the emergency response community will use it a lot too. It's one of their primary backups.
When you've lost connectivity between certain government agencies, it gives you that long-range coverage to talk from out of state to federal governments or from the FEMA locations to the state emergency operations centers.
So if we've got a big hurricane impact in the coastline, whatever big city, we've got the cell towers down and whatnot, we've got emergency communication folks in there. Those folks are very familiar with space weather and how it impacts their systems.
Here in recent years, it was used during Katrina when we had a lot of communications outages down there. It was also used during Hurricane Ike. There was an outage of the telephone circuits with the Texas State Emergency Office, so it was used in both of those situations.
So when we talk about backup, especially for the airlines, typically they'll have SATCOM, so that'll be satellite communication.
The satellite technology that emergency responders use could be GPSs, could be satellite phones, satellite data terminals.
Space weather events can impact SATCOMs. The impact can range from a nuisance to loss of a spacecraft. So we will give them the heads up. If we have space weather events, flares, whatnot, they need to know what's impacting their systems. Situational awareness is key. Time is of essence to these folks. Again, it's life and death.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to today's sea ice analysis. Still continuing to melt away out here, getting a little farther to the north with each day and farther away from the coast, with the exception of this heavier area here that's about 5 to 7/10 coverage that's along and north of the barrier islands. It's grounded, so it's not moving much, so it's kind of just melting in place. And moving on to the coastal water forecast, light winds along the south coast tomorrow, out of the east at about 10 knots. There for the, or with seas at 5 feet. North coast, light winds also from the north-northwest, 10 knots, seas 5 feet. Lynn Canal, south at 10, seas 2 feet. And then variable winds 10 knots, central southern inside waters with slight seas. And for Wednesday, south to southeast at about 10 knots, staying light there over the central and southern inside waters. Northwest 15 along the entire outer coastline with seas running 4 to 5 feet. Lynn Canal, south winds 15 knots. Prince William Sound, northwest at 10 tomorrow. Otherwise, we've got south winds at 10 knots on the eastern North Gulf Coast, the western North Gulf Coast, northwest at 10. 10-knot winds also for the Barren Islands out of the west, seas 3 feet. South winds at 15 for Kamishak Bay and southern Cook Inlet, and north of the Forelands, southerlies at 10 knots. For Wednesday, Cook Inlet, south 15, seas 3 to 4 feet, southeast 20 knots for Kamishak Bay with 5-foot seas, south 15 there for the Barren Islands, and then west to southwest winds at 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound, winds stay light, southwest at 10. And for Kodiak Island, southwest 15 knots, seas 3 to 4 feet. Sitka to Kessel Cape, southwest at 10 with 3-foot seas. Alaska Peninsula, southeast 15, seas running 2 to 3 feet, and Bristol Bay, southeast at 10 with 2-foot seas. For Wednesday, southeast 15 for Bristol Bay, seas up to 3 feet now, and south on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, 15, same sea height, southwest 15, 5-foot seas, Pacific side of the peninsula, and now we've got southeast at 20. As you get up towards Sitkinak, seas build to 6 feet, southwest 20 in Shelikof Strait, south 20 on the east side of Kodiak. Fox Islands tomorrow, Unalaska Island, south to southeast, 15 knots. Umak Island, south to southwest, 15 to 20 knots. Southwest 20 for Adak and Atka, all the way out to Kiska, and then Kiska to Shimia, west at 20. Next day, that system approaching to the west, those winds will swing around to the southeast, staying under small craft advisories at least through the afternoon at 20 knots, and then with here from Amchitka toward Adak, southwest 20, westerlies 20 knots for the central Aleutians. Eastern areas here, west to southwest, 15 to 20 knots, strongest winds on the Pacific side of the islands. And for the southwest coast, we've got southeast winds at 15 knots here, south of Nunivak Island. North side of the island, south 15, same thing for the northern Bering Sea. St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisories with southerlies at 25 knots and 5-foot seas. Pribilof, southeast 15. For Wednesday, St. Lawrence Island, west winds 15 knots, and then lighter winds here along the southwest coast, just 10 to 15 knots there, and seas not too bad at 4 feet, south at 10 for both the Pribilof, St. Matthew Island. And up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, southeast 5 to 10 knots all the way over to the central coast. Small craft advisories here, probably from roughly Point Lay all the way down to Wales, south 25 knots, and seas running 5 to 6 feet. For the outlook on Wednesday, from Wales up to Cape Thompson, look for west winds at 20 knots there, with seas running 4 to 5 feet, southwest 15 on the western coast, back up to 20 knots, central coast, and an increase in the winds here for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but nothing serious, south to southeast 15 to 20. And for tonight again, rain moving in and some breezy conditions as well, with the system coming into the western north slope along the northwest coast, some moisture possibly as far south as St. Lawrence Island. High pressure building in, clearing skies, showers slowly ending here and shifting eastward toward the border. Chance of rain lingers over the panhandle, and this moisture slides into the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow, but it'll be light. Chance of rain holds over the southern southeast coast, northern areas increasing sun. Isolated thunderstorms toward the border tomorrow afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny. Temperatures into the 70s over many locations, and that'll be a repeat on Wednesday as this system crosses by the north slope and stays to the north, and this one pushes into Bristol Bay.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.